back to another episode of the Play Action Podcast presented by Warrior Student Media. I'm TJ Hawes, and joining me today is my great co-host, Tyler Houston. How are you doing today, Tyler?
I'm doing great, buddy.
I'm happy to hear that, but we got a little bit of a change in episodes this week. We are not going to be going over Week 9, right? Where this is the exact middle point of the week, pretty much, or the season. So rather than doing that, we thought that with the trade deadline just finishing up, we're going to go over 12. We got 12 trades here, and we're going to kind of just go over the impact of each one. We'll be going over what both teams get, exactly what both teams get, and just, this is one of the best trade deadlines we've had ever. I think it was the most in a trade deadline day ever in NFL history with 10 trades. We've got a couple extra from beforehand as well. We're not going over every single trade. Some of them aren't as important, but we got the 12 most impactful ones, we believe. And so with that, we're going to just jump right into it. And these go in order of which they happened, in the week or whatever. So we're going to start off with a few that didn't happen on the day of the trade deadline, but happened a little bit before. Starting off with probably one of the biggest trades that we've seen in some time. Christian McCaffrey getting moved, right? Gets traded from the Panthers to the 49ers in exchange for second, third, and fourth round picks in 2023 and a fifth round pick in 2024. What were your initial thoughts with this trade? Because you and me were actually talking to each other.
Yeah, we were on the phone when
we were on the phone when the news broke. So
I'm shocked, but not shocked. I'm shocked about McCaffrey going to the 49ers, but I'm not shocked that he got traded. I think I kind of expected this. Especially if I think any GM, if you were told they were getting this compensation for a running back, you easily take that.
Especially one with the injury history of McCaffrey.
And how much money he gets paid for being this year not as bad with injuries, but years before.
I mean, right, we're a couple of weeks into this trade. He's played 2 games at San Fran. The first game he played, he wasn't...
just limited. It's just he did join the team. He joined the team that Friday.
Thursday. Or he got traded Thursday night, joined the team on Friday.
Yeah.
So he only had a couple of days of practicing with them. So, of course, he wasn't going to get a bunch of playing time. But his first full workhorse week back, he...
goes for the hat trick.
He had the hat trick, which is rushing touchdown, receiving touchdown, and passing touchdown, which hasn't happened since 2000 or something like that. First time this century that it's happened. So, I mean, this dude is just what Shanahan loves in a running back. He loves the running game. The 49ers have been built on the running game for years. So they thought, why not make a splash move and get one of the best running backs in the game when healthy? And they obviously know how to use him.
Yeah, they use Debo the same way they're going to use McCaffrey.
Yep, they use him. So now they get a true running back, a guy who actually can run the ball first and then catch passes on the side, whereas Debo will be the opposite now. So I'm very intrigued to see how this offense works. But I think the Panthers won this trade overall.
For sure.
I mean, I get the 49ers got their guy, but you're getting 3 good quality picks. And you will get a 5th next year or the year after, which isn't
you can just use it to trade up.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could trade up, whatever. But I could see the Panthers using some of these picks and trading up for a quarterback, especially. And I think that's what they're planning on doing, getting their guy of the future. So, yeah, I mean, I would pick the Panthers.
I think the Panthers wins by far.
But I still think San Fran got a good running back.
It's a win-win for both teams. I think that's the best way to put it in.
Yeah, it definitely was. This is one of the better trades. The next trade we got here is the Jets trading for James Robinson from the Jaguars in exchange for a 2023 6th-round pick, which can turn into a 5th with 600 rushing yards on the season. Now, whether that's just total with both teams or just with the Jets, I don't know for sure. But I mean, I think the Jets won this one. I mean, with Breece Hall going out with a torn ACL, they needed their number 2 guy because they were using Michael Carter a decent amount still. So they're kind of going with that 2-back system, and adding a guy like Robinson, who was just splitting carries with Etienne weeks ago, is now going to be splitting carries with probably, I would say, a worse running back. So I think a role even opens up for him more here.
Yeah, it gives Robinson an opportunity to start for the Jets. Robinson started this year hot, 3 great games, and he made Etienne look like he was going to be the backup for the rest of the year. Throughout the year, they slowly added Etienne, and this makes sense for the Jaguars to move him for something because they pretty much have decided that Etienne is going to be their main guy moving forward. With, I think, a week or 2 ago, Robinson had 1 touch.
Mm-hmm. Which is It's crazy to me. I feel like there might have been some internal conflict in there because almost every team in the league is looking for a two-back system. Like you got guys like Zeke and Pollard splitting carries.
Monty and Herbert. That's another big one. Kareem Hunt still gets a decent amount of work, even with the best running back in football, Nick Chubb there. Like one of the only teams that doesn't split carries is like Tennessee. Even Indy was splitting carries between Hines. Taylor was healthy,
and when Taylor was healthy, but. I thought the Jags could have just done the same thing, but maybe it was an internal trade request from Robinson that got him moved. But I think this gives him a bigger role. I would say the Jets, they're getting a good quality player.
Yeah, you'll have Robinson as a backup for a couple more years because he's still under contract. It works out, especially for the Jets, because you got a good 1-2 punch out of Robinson and Hogg for next year.
Mm-hmm. Now, moving on to the next trade, we got the first Bears trade. Bears made 3 big trades. They were the most explosive, you could say, in the trade deadline. And the first one I don't think was really that big of a surprise, but the Eagles get Robert Quinn, and the Bears get a 2023 fourth-round pick. You go first. Yeah, you go first.
Quinn is 32 currently. Going into this year, Bears fans are questioning who should get traded out of Mack or Quinn. Quinn ended up being the one who stayed with the Bears. Ryan Poles shipped on Mack within his first few days there. Robert Quinn this year, I want to say, has been very inconsistent, but also there has not been any consistency because he has, I think, a total of 1.5 sacks this year. Yeah, it reminds me of 2 years ago when he had a total of 3.5. He is throughout his years, he is very inconsistent. He'll have a bad year and then a great year and then a bad year and a great year. It's pretty much just a repeated story going on. Mm-hmm. Something to mention, though, is when Robert Quinn got traded to the Eagles and Quinn decided to terminate his contract for the next 2 years. So after this year, Quinn will be a free agent.
I mean, this is you can tell this is kind of one of their moves to push towards a Super Bowl, right? Add some depth on that edge rushing group, which is very important. Even if Quinn isn't, the greatest player this year, he obviously broke the Bears' sack record last season. That was just 1 season ago. Mm-hmm. So I don't think a ton has changed in that area overall. And you got a good group around you. I think that can help Robert Quinn overall. And the Bears got a 4th-round pick out of him, which is honestly more than I had expected for someone 32 performing this bad. But taking on most of the money, I can see by the pick was a little higher than expected.
Mm-hmm. I'm fine with the Bears doing that because you don't have to worry about it for the next 2 years. Plus, now the Bears have $125 million going into next offseason. It helps out the Bears a lot. And also, the new regime wants to go younger. Trading a guy like Quinn he was a big locker room guy, but it makes sense for it makes sense from a business
what they're
standpoint. Trying to do.
Yep. Now, this is one of my favorite trades, I think. One of the more not talked about as much. The Chiefs traded for Kadarius Toney, giving up a 2023 third-round pick that is a conditional compensatory pick, and then a 2023 6th-round pick on top of that. I love this move for both sides, right? I know that sounds weird saying you love this for the Giants, considering you just drafted them a couple years ago, but the Chiefs get they're explosive after the catch receiver.
I want to say it's a worse player kill. That's what I kind of want to say. He might not be as fast, but after the catch is where he makes plays happen.
And that's exactly. I feel like the Chiefs will thrive off that. Again, using a guy like Tyreek Hill, they use that with him a lot. And the same will go for Kadarius Toney. A lot of people were questioning the health issues. He was not actually unhealthy. He was fully healthy and was not.
He pretty much just lied to the Giants.
He lied to because he wanted out of the Giants already, which honestly makes sense because he was hurt his rookie year, and anyone who plays in the Giants stadium knows that field sucks.
Oh, it does.
All the players complain about it, which makes sense. I mean, you saw. I don't know if you remember the Sterling Shepard injury this year. I'm sure you have that play. It was not contact, and he was just running. He was literally just casually running a route, and he tore his ACL out for the year. It's terrible. That field needs a complete change, and honestly, for a career standpoint, it makes sense. I know that sounds a little sounds like I'm over exaggerating a little bit, but.
If you watch Giants games, you could see just even if someone has to get hurt, it's hard to run on the field. You could just see the acceleration from players. There's always going into games, players always prepare for stuff like this. This is something that players mention with their team a lot about how bad the field is. Mm-hmm. The Giants are used to it at the same time too. You lost your number 1 receiver due to your field being so bad.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, Tony clearly wanted out, but he kept telling the team over and over again that wasn't it like a hamstring injury or whatever the injury was. He kept just trying to say, yeah, it hasn't got any better.
Yep.
But after he gets traded, he tweets out saying, yeah, I lied about it. That's pretty much what he did.
Which, I mean, isn't a great look on his part, but I think it was only to get him out of the Giants. I don't think that's something that'll continue.
I don't think that's a character.
And now he gets to play with Mahomes, so It's a win-win for everyone. Now, I think the biggest trade for the Bears, obviously I'll give you the mic on this one, but the Ravens traded for Roquan Smith, giving up a 2023 second-round pick, a 2023 fifth-round pick that came originally from New England, and then A.J. Klein, who is kind of, I mean, not like a great linebacker, but
he's pretty much just here to help us throughout the year.
A quote-unquote replacement, just getting a linebacker in return.
He's pretty much here just to play out through the rest of the year.
Yep.
Roquan Smith. This year so before the year started, him and Poles were having contract negotiations. Both sides clearly thought Roquan's value was different. Roquan thought he was worth like the Fred Warner money. Poles did not. Some teams don't value what's the word?
Linebackers. It doesn't value linebackers as much.
Off-ball linebackers. That's the word I'm trying to think of. That they just don't value them as much. Poles wanted to bring him back, but at the same time, too, Roquan Smith didn't like the money he was getting, so he betted on himself this year to prove Poles wrong. But all he did this year was be very inconsistent. Some games he was playing great, had tons of tackles, would have a turnover or a sack, and then there's games like last week against Dallas, he had 5 tackles. He's just been very inconsistent this year. Would I have loved to get a first round out of him? At the moment when I saw that he got traded, I was very frustrated that we didn't. But now just looking at it throughout the couple of days, I realized Roquan Smith is way too inconsistent. Plus, he doesn't have a long-term contract. So I think if he had a long-term contract, we would get a first rounder for him. But because he's on his final year of his deal, that's why we only get a second and a fifth.
I mean, I don't think he got traded for. I think it was a good trade, right? Obviously, he wasn't happy with the team. You could tell.
And we weren't going to pay him the money he wanted.
My issue is the fact that, what are the Ravens doing? I think this was a bad trade for Baltimore. I think the Bears won this by a mile because, look, now you're going to have to pay both Roquan
and Lamar Jackson.
And Lamar.
And you're going to pay Lamar whatever he wants.
This really, I feel like this shows that the Ravens think they're an off-ball linebacker away from contending for a Super Bowl, which is not true. Why wouldn't you? I think instead of spending,
you should have gone for a receiver.
You should have gone for Brandon Cooks. I think that would have been perfect. With Mark Andrews dealing with injuries throughout the year so far, Bateman being out for a little while. I mean, you got no one that he can throw the ball to. Obviously, they're still winning games without elite receivers, but why not bring in a guy like Brandon Cooks? And it's like you're paying Brandon Cooks now. I get it, the $18 million is a lot, but I don't know, man. I like this trade for the Bears. I think it's a good kind of change of scenery in a way. And Ravens, what are you doing, man? What are you doing?
Also, one other. Oh, wait, never mind. It's a different trade. Never mind.
Okay, then.
It was going to be about a second rounder. We'll get to that later.
Yep. All right. Next trade. I think this was the most shocking, if I'm being honest, trade out of anyone. The Lions traded away T.J. Hawkinson to the Vikings and also gave up a 2023 fourth and a 2024 fourth. So next 2 years, fourth-round picks in Hawkinson for a 2023 second and a 2024 third. Why are you trading a division?
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I'm curious. I mean,
I don't think that trading away Hawkinson was terrible because he hasn't done as much as you probably were hoping. But in division is questionable. If you want to trade in division during the draft or draft picks, okay, fine, whatever. But if you're gonna give a good tight end to someone in your division, what does that do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Vikings. I think it comes down to a scenario where they already have a history of trading with each other. They made the big draft trade where the Lions traded up 20 spots to get Jameson Williams, and at the same time, I think they have that history, right? And now the Vikings are desperate for someone. Irv Smith is out 8 to 10 weeks, got put on IR right after this trade happened. And the Lions knew they could get some good capital out of him. And I think this might have been a little bit of an overpay, but for a team that's I think legitimately contending for a Super Bowl, I understand the move. I like it. I think this is another win.
It's a good trade for both sides. At the same time, too, it also shows the Lions, I think, are pretty much in a way just giving up on this year.
I mean, they are.
I think if you're Dan Campbell, I think you got him just give up on this year because you probably have at most or at least 1 year left. I think he'll make it to next year, but then he's gonna have to show a lot of growth to keep his job.
Yeah, definitely. I like this trade a lot. I just find it interesting that they trade in division again.
Yeah, that's very questionable.
Now let's get into the trade that I think you were talking about. Yeah. Bears trade for Chase Claypool from my Steelers, giving us a 2023 second-round pick. That second-round pick is yours. It is your second-round pick, not Baltimore. So you keep Baltimore's pick, and we get your pick, which is a slightly better one.
I wouldn't even say slightly. I'd say by a lot, in around a lot overall. It was not that big. Why don't you start off with this? You're a Steelers fan. You're trading away a receiver who you like. You start off with this.
I mean, from a business standpoint, I love this move. I think he was not happy with how Matt Canada was running them, using them. And I think, we need to get George Pickens out there, getting him more opportunities, and getting rid of Claypool is exactly how we can do that. And I was saying this for a while, right? I think he's worth a third-round pick, but if we can get a second-rounder for a team that really needs another receiver, let's do it. I was expecting a team maybe like Indianapolis, or especially Green Bay was the big one. Maybe Dallas, too, one of those three trading for receivers. But Chicago is the one who ended up doing it. We get a pretty solid pick out of it, so I'm happy.
With you mentioning Green Bay, what is actually funny, and Bears fans this whole week have now been clowning the Packers for this. Before the Bears offered their second, Green Bay already did that. So the Bears
did, and the Bears pick's going to be better.
Well, yeah, that's clearly why they went with that. I don't think it's going to be much of a difference because the Packers and the Bears both suck this year, but the Bears will be worse. For the Bears side, I actually like this trade a lot. Chase Claypool is a faster guy for his size. He's 6'4", a big red zone threat. We don't really have that. Like Cole Kmet's supposed to be that guy, but I think his play style is more of a possession guy. Gains a couple yards just like on a short route.
Mm-hmm.
I think Claypool will be our main guy in the red zone. We also need another receiver, but also I think for Fields' side of this, the Bears are showing that they trust Justin Fields and they know that he can be the future.
Yeah, I was going to say that's definitely a big part of it, and I think Fields has proven to be somewhat of probably the best quarterback from the 2021 class so far, or at least close.
I'd say this year he's the best.
Yes.
Down the line, I think it will be Fields or Lawrence.
Yeah,
I don't
definitely. I think everyone else
Zach Wilson hasn't improved anything, and then
everyone else is out, and then Lance has been injured.
Yeah.
So everyone else is out. It's between those two right now. But let's get into another trade that I think proves, and this is not. I probably won't prove it as much, but I think this proves quarterback, like trust in the quarterback, and that's the Dolphins trading for Bradley Chubb.
You gave up a lot for him, too.
Yep, he gave up a 2023 first-round pick that they have from San Francisco when they traded up to get Trey Lance in 2021.
I want to add this in. Dolphins, before going into training camp this year, they had a very bad incident that got one of their first-rounders taken away.
Their own first-round pick got taken, and then I think this came out in like August. Yeah,
like in training camp.
Their own first-round pick got taken, but they still had one from San Francisco, which they have now traded away to Denver. So now Denver has a first-round pick, which they did not originally have because of the Russell Wilson trade. But they also get a 2024 fourth-round pick and running back Chase Edmonds. Edmonds won't do too much. I honestly think I think he only signed a 1-year deal with Miami, so I think he's gone. He'll enter free agency. This is just add another running back to the group considering Javonte Williams is out, so it was like toss him in too.
Yeah, their Broncos running back group isn't that great. You got Melvin Gordon, you got Latavius Murray, some other guys who just haven't done that much. Mm-hmm. I think the Broncos see something in Edmonds. Clearly, that's why they took him in the deal because they didn't see anything in him. They would not. They just would have left him to the side.
Yeah, I like this move. I also want to mention that the Dolphins get obviously Bradley Chubb, and they get a 2025 fifth-round pick. That's a couple years down the road. But they've already given him an extension. He got 5 years, $119 million. I've seen the numbers 110 and 119 thrown around.
I think it's 19 with 63.5. I want to say guaranteed. It's like 63.
That's a big risk to take for someone who has had I believe he's missed 24 games in his career due to injuries. So, but he is playing he's playing on an unreal level this year. He's playing probably the best year of football he's ever played. He was a former 5th overall pick in 19, I want to say. I could be completely wrong on that. If you don't mind looking at it for me. I believe he was 2019. Or was it 20? It might have been 2018. It could have been 2018. I feel like that might be right.
Number 5 overall in 2018.
Yeah, well, okay, it is 2018. So he's the 5th overall pick 2018, played with Von Miller for a while, whatever. He has a big injury issue, but I think he fits the scheme perfectly for Miami. He's going to play just the exact same role he's doing in Denver with that 3-4 outside linebacker role coming off the edge. They need someone to pair up with Jalen Phillips, who is why am I blanking? Second year? Yeah. Second year edge rusher out of Miami. Coincidentally going to Miami, but I think this is a big move. And I think going all in on a defensive star is kind of shows that they're like pushing for playoffs and like going for a Super Bowl right now, which makes me feel like they trust Tua. Because if they didn't, they would go for a worse. They wouldn't make a move like this right now. They'd go for a worse pick and they'd get a quarterback then. But they have all the faith in Tua, and I think that's a fact. I mean, when Tua plays through an entire game, they win. Mm-hmm. He's won every game he's played in, or he's finished.
And like the injuries he's had this year, it also shows that he wants to be out there. Because there's some players, like the very bad injury Tua had, if any other player had it, there's probably a chance they wouldn't want to get in as soon as he did. Mm-hmm. He got in there within 3 weeks? 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, it was quick.
Yeah. There were some Chargers players last year.
A safe quick, by the way.
There was a Chargers player who had the same incident last year. Didn't return for 6 weeks, I think, at least. I can't remember the guy's name. But he returned in a longer amount of time. Tua came back quickly, but he clearly was cleared. But Tua is better than what people think. Mm-hmm. I want to say that because I know this is a little bit off topic, but main reason everyone hates on Tua is because he underthrows Tyreek Hill. Patrick Mahomes has the strongest arm in the league, and I don't think that's a question, maybe besides Josh Allen. But if you pair Tyreek Hill with any other quarterback besides Mahomes or Josh Allen, that quarterback is going to underthrow him every time, just because how fast Hill is. Yeah. So I think Tua will be the guy moving forward. I think throughout the years he could build some more arm strength, but at the same time too, you have Hill, who is a great weapon, who actually will go up on a 2-on-1 ball and could come down with it, even though he's not the biggest guy.
Yeah, I don't want to say this is a loss for Denver because obviously you're losing a star edge rusher, but this is a team that doesn't look great, and they don't have a first or a second round pick this year. So I think getting a pick in one of those first 2 rounds was extremely important, and they got a first. It might be a lower first because San Fran is looking like a pretty solid team right now, but you could get a good quality player out of that. But now we got one more trade. One final one here. And this trade is more of a future thing than current. But the Falcons traded away Calvin Ridley in exchange for a 2023 5th-round pick and a 2024 4th-round pick. Now, that 4th-round pick can become a 3rd-round pick if he hits a certain amount of playing time next year, and can become a 2nd-round pick if he signs an extension with Jacksonville. I think this was just the most shocking trade.
Yeah.
He's not going to play. This is more of this. I saw a tweet that said the Jags are pretty much pre-ordering Calvin Ridley, which that's pretty much what it is, right? You're trading away a couple picks right now. Yeah. These picks aren't even that great either.
No.
But I think it'll end up being a 2nd-rounder. It will end up being a 2nd-rounder.
I think that answers the question you and me had yesterday when I asked you, wasn't Ridley going into a contract year? I think this shows because if he gets an extension playing time for next year, that means that the 1 year he had this year moved up from him being suspended a whole year.
So he has 1 year left on his contract, we believe.
If he didn't get suspended, he would be going.
He'd be a free agent. Contract. He'd be a free agent after the season, but he'll be a free agent after next season. Jacksonville gets a true number 1 receiver for a year, and the Falcons. I just think this was a dumb move on the Falcons. This might have been the worst. This might be the most lopsided trade because why would the Falcons trade him, right? Because Mariota is not the franchise for them. You're going to go in with a young quarterback who could develop with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Calvin Ridley surrounding him.
I think really being there to help out Drake London would have benefited very well because last 5 games, London has been struggling. At the same time, too, Mariota has not passed the ball as much lately.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't like this move for the Falcons. I think the Jags were one of the big winners. I think the Jags were probably the big winner of the trade deadline overall. Maybe I could throw in Chicago, too. I think they're one of the top up there. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's going to wrap it up for this trade deadline. There were some other trades you want to look into. Of course, some not as big as
Like
these ones.
Naheem Hines, for
Naheem
example.
Hines, William Jackson to the Steelers.
Rashad Felton to the
Yeah, but
Falcons.
like stuff like that. It's nothing crazy.
Not the biggest
they
name guys,
happen.
but
it happens.
little pieces that can help a team moving forward.
So, with that is going to do it for this episode of the Play Action Podcast presented by Warrior Student Media. I'm TJ Hawes. He's Tyler Houston, and we'll see you in the next one.